I wanted to just take a quick look at like some Trump dummies. Sometimes this stuff is so entertaining, man. Let's check out some Trump dummies.
The last 4 years, we've been held hostage under the Democratic rule. That is horrible, horrible, horrible. We've had more taxes. We paid more for everything.
Wait, you think that taxes? You think that taxes have been like really high in the last 4 years, right?
Dude, I love this dude. Dean, I think his name is. This is so good. Look at her shirt. It says Trump's girl. Oh God, dude. That's rough. Don't wear shirts like that. I would never wear a shirt that said Biden's girl, for example. I don't know that I would be anybody's girl, truthfully.
It's not just that. We paid for everything. We, the middle income America, was paying for the Democratic, all this.
I just want to clarify.
The Democratic, the democratic country that we live in, yes, that's called democracy and that's called taxation. First time? She is, of course, implying that the middle class is paying for, George Soros to fund Antifa riots or some stupid. Get a grip on reality.
Democratic, all
So
this.
I just want to clarify. You didn't like Biden and Harris's tax code.
I did not.
Would you ever vote for it again?
She knows she's got here. She knows. Well, she probably has no fucking clue that it wasn't Biden or Harris's tax plan, but she knows that he's about to inform her of that fact.
No.
Under any circumstances?
No.
It was Trump's tax code.
No, it was Obama's. It was Obama's.
No, it wasn't. It was not Obama's.
In 2017, Donald Trump passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, in which was his tax code and set to expire this year, meaning under the entire Biden-Harris administration, we were under Donald Trump's tax code. You just told us that you hated that tax code and you never vote for it again under any circumstances.
I would never vote for a Democratic regime ever.
Oh, well, now that's different. Because just a minute ago, you told us you didn't like Trump's tax code. This is a clear example of a person that there's nothing knocking around up there. It's just air between those ears. And she simply hates anything to the left of hunting immigrants for sport. That's the bottom line. It doesn't get any deeper than that.
So it had nothing to do with what they were doing and all to do with the fact that they're Democrats. Party over country every single day, you're a member of a cult.
Absolutely, dude. I like this guy a lot. He's pretty cool. By the way, guys, check out my new shop, owenmorgan.com/shop. I have a bunch of really cool designs on there. Apparently, this one is 3 months old, but check this out. This is him again.
Congrats, you've got your niche. It's this like autistic, I can memorize everything and I think I'm smarter and better than you. I think you're 100% grifter.
Okay.
It's very cringe. Your attitude, especially your attitude towards me, which is ironically extremely elitist of you. This is what most Americans were sick of. We were sick of being told by people we're dumb, useless, redneck idiots.
Well, you're dumb, useless, redneck f***ing idiots. When you say like you said, like this, the woman said a minute ago that she was sick of living under Biden's tax plan. What do you expect me to say? What do you think I'm going to say? Really? Do you think I'm going to point out that you had no fucking clue that we were under Trump's tax plan? And I'm going to say, you were really smart for that, for not realizing that, for not knowing that fact about society, but still wearing that stupid fucking hat and putting that bumper sticker on the back of your car and flying that fucking flag on the back like you are involved in politics and buying into every conspiracy theory from here to Texas. You think I'm going to call you smart for that? Of course I'm not. Kind of a fucking... All right, you know what? I'm sorry. Getting worked up over here. Let's continue. So you're upset that I'm calling you a fucking moron.
I asked you to review any position that I hold to be the case with reason and logic, and you gave a long-winded 2-minute response about how you think I'm autistic and how I'm elitist because I think that you're weird and dumb. I think that this perfectly resembles the quote-unquote common sense of the right. The common sense of the right has nothing to do with sense, has nothing to do with reason, has nothing to do with logic, has all to do with your emotions.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with evidence, most importantly. These people believe in absolute nonsense. Like, there is no reason to believe any of this shit. Case in point, vaccines cause autism. No, they don't. No, they don't. They have never caused autism. There is no link between the two. There has never been a link. There will never be a link between the two. But disproportionately, MAGA believes, by a wide margin, that vaccines do cause autism. What am I supposed to do with that? And you know what? You have your weird little niche opinion I can let you go off in the corner on your own and say, I think this is true, despite the fact that there's no evidence that it's true. Whatever. But that's not the only thing. Literally every single political opinion that you have, all of them are conspiracy theory. Not one is based in fact. Not one has evidence to back it up. That's the problem. Not even one. It is all based in emotion. Now, we live in a society that I feel that we can both agree, everybody can agree, I hope, that we should be basing our opinions on well-reasoned, well-thought-out, evidence-based arguments, right? None of your arguments meet that criteria. That's why you get called an idiot redneck. I don't actually like insulting people, and I was having a little bit of fun earlier, but I don't think insulting people is productive or helpful. I think it makes people feel better, like me, but in the end, it's, doesn't really move us forward. But if you continue to believe this stuff with absolutely zero evidence whatsoever, people are going to continue calling you dumb rednecks. I don't know what to tell you. You don't want to be called a dumb redneck, then stop being a dumb redneck, Just trying to give like an honest analysis here. If you're wondering, if anybody cared, you're being called a dumb redneck because you're acting like one.
And how you hold them to such a high pedestal to dictate what should happen to others. Like, for instance, you have put the pedal to the metal on me so many times about how it's okay to say anything you want, words are just words, but as soon as I call you dumb, you talk about it for 45 minutes straight. And this dude is absolutely on point. And he made another really interesting point here. He said to dictate what should happen to others, right here. A pedestal to dictate what should happen to others.
That's the key right there. You want to go in the corner and believe you're stupid, then do it. But you're not just going in the corner and believing you're stupid. You're affecting me now and my life and my kids' lives. I have to send my kid to public school. Everybody does, pretty much, unless you jump through a bunch of hoops. And your dumb wants to send your kid to a public school without getting him vaccinated. Well, you're putting my kid at risk. That's how this works. It's called herd immunity, and it doesn't work unless everybody gets a vaccine, if they can, barring some exceptions like medical necessity, like you can't, immunocompromised or you're allergic to something in it or whatever. When a large subset of the population, like MAGA people, MAGA-Potamians, stop getting vaccinated, measles outbreaks spread. Tuberculosis becomes more popular. Like, this becomes a problem because of you. And your opinions are not well thought out at all. They're not thought out in any way, as a matter of fact. There's no evidence behind them at all. And I don't know what, I'm sorry, I was going somewhere with this. Let me jump back a little bit. I know you don't like being called a dumb redneck, but when you're imposing your beliefs on me, I feel that, now I have to engage with you on this. Now I feel obligated to. Anyway, yeah, this dude is pretty cool. He's done some other stuff, too. He kind of caught my attention when he debated Charlie Kirk a while back on Jubilee. Oh, God. Do I want to play this Jubilee video? They're copyright hawks. Well, I'll play this one. I discovered him a while back on Jubilee, but check this other one out that he did.
What's going on? Did you vote for Trump?
Oh, I absolutely did.
Why did you vote for the worst president of your life? Why are you part of the worst political movement of your life?
I voted for Trump for national security.
That is absolutely ridiculous. Why would you think national security would improve under Trump? I'm sure it's pretty clear that it wouldn't now, right? This clip came out, I believe, in March 2025.
National security includes possibly invading Greenland with the military, starting a war with Europe, isolating ourselves from an allies, and being a Russian asset?
So national security depends on trying to take Greenland? I mean, just take any one of these four things he listed. Being a Russian asset, isolating ourselves from European allies and from Canada. Any of this stuff is like horrific and terrible for national security.
And being a Russian asset?
I voted for Trump for national security for our country.
Well, I don't think that possibly starting a war with Europe and isolating ourselves from allies will keep our country more secure. If anything, it puts our country at a bigger risk. Not to mention that revoking support for Ukraine and putting that burden on Europe increases the probability of a third world war, since they have less power, smaller militaries, and they're right on the front doorstep of Russia. So if you voted for national security, you voted incorrectly.
Well, that's your opinion, but
No, it's not an opinion. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. She doesn't like. All right, my kid in I think maybe 5th grade was doing this little thing that writing a paper for school or whatever, and it had a bunch of statements, and she had to go down the list and mark which things were opinion and which ones were fact. How did she miss that day in 5th grade? Why does she not understand the difference between fact and opinion? Do you not know how this works? It is a factual statement. It is not an opinion.
for me, as a citizen of the United States, he is the best choice to protect all the citizens who live here.
Really? First I'm hearing of it. Do I really need to go down the list of that he's done to citizens in the United States just in his first 100 days?
Okay, then why the did he let violent offenders that beat up cops and drove stun guns into their necks roam free on the streets?
That's January 6th people, I believe.
And why does he advocate for tax policy that will make the poor poor when poverty is the root cause of most crime?
It's a really good point, right?
So I don't think that's true. I think that Trump wants peace and he wants to put money back in taxpayers' pockets.
Again, it's not an opinion. It's not something that you can think whatever. You should look at the evidence and analyze it and come to a factual understanding. God, dude, it's all based on emotion with these people. And this whole bit about putting more money back in taxpayers' pockets, I understand people want money, but this is one of the fundamentally most selfish things that I hear Trump supporters say on a regular basis. I would love more money myself. But you know what I would love more than having that, what are we even going to get, 2% more per year? Do you know what I would love even more than that? I would love to live in a neighborhood that is not run down because people can't afford to clean up their houses or to build up or improve on their houses, what I'm saying. I want to live in a neighborhood where people aren't dying because they can't afford to pay for their medical bills. I want to live in a neighborhood where people don't, there aren't homeless people in the neighborhood. I want everybody in the neighborhood to have a home that they can go to. And my taxes are supposed to go towards social programs like that to prevent those things from happening, to help people. And I'm the first one in line every year to make sure that my shit is paid so that I can make, so that people don't have to go through that. Why are people like this? Why are Magapotamians so laser focused on their own personal problems, their own personal things going on, and they have absolutely no care for anybody else anywhere in the world? What is wrong with you? Did your mother not teach you basic empathy when you were little? Not only did you not fill out that paper in 5th grade on opinion and fact, but you also didn't learn empathy, really.
He wants peace and he wants to put money back in taxpayers' pockets.
I'm so sorry. What claim did I make that was untrue? Quote me precisely.
She did. She quoted you precisely. There was no untrue claim.
You have no clue. Okay.
Quote.
I made 2 claims. The first claim that I made about Donald Trump was that he literally let violent offenders that beat up cops and drove stun guns into their necks out of jail to roam free on the streets. Not
Yeah, January 6th people, I think.
to mention he's
Exactly,
a rapist felon
that's not
himself.
true.
Oh yeah, it is true.
That's
His name is.
It's not true.
But it is, again, not a matter of opinion.
And
It is
if you
true.
want to pick apart, the crime that's happened, what about?
Well, no, I don't. We want to talk about the crime we just brought up. This is called whataboutism, aka the tu quoque fallacy. I couldn't possibly care less about what about. I want to talk about this. It doesn't matter what happened over there. It matters what happened here.
The
Amara,
riots
thank you for
of
the
Black
$10
Lives
super
Matter.
chat over on YouTube, Amara. Thank you so much for the love. And man, I just want to clarify that is true. So he pardoned individuals of the likes of DJ Rodriguez, who was arrested following the January 6th insurrection for driving a stun gun into a cop's neck. The cop then testified against him in court for violent assault. Then DJ Rodriguez pled guilty. Not to
What
mention,
about everyone Biden?
Completely irrelevant. Couldn't possibly matter less.
not to
What
mention,
about everyone Biden pardoned?
And for the record, the people that Biden pardoned, they were just, he didn't even pardon people. I think he commuted their death sentence. So they still have to serve their time in prison for the rest of their lives. They just aren't getting the death penalty. But aside from that, they weren't insurrectionists. They weren't literally engaging in sedition against the United States government. Admittedly, like they said, I committed sedition against the U.S. government, some of them.
What about that?
name a violent
Because if I'm
offender that
not
Biden
mistaken,
pardoned.
he pardoned people who had child blank on their phones and
No. He commuted some death sentences to be life sentences instead. That's pretty much it.
computers and stuff. So what about that?
So who did he pardon? That was a violent offender or a P3DO?
It was some Chinese guy.
Some Chinese guy?
What was the Chinese guy's name?
Now you'll have to look it up. I don't really know Chinese names all that well, but
What the f?
look it on if you look on.
It is so f***ing stupid, dude. It's so stupid.
Then
You don't know,
you'll see it.
what did you just say? You don't know Chinese names that well?
I don't know his name. He's Chinese.
God, dude, it's so stupid. Anyway, yeah, Dean's pretty interesting. You check him out if you want to. But the point is that these people are shameless grifters that don't know the first f***ing thing about anything. And they are like in a perpetual state of effectively worshiping a cult leader. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments.